Happy Forgiveness Friday, folks. I am so excited to be here. I know I'm a little late today, but it was all for good cause. As you can see, I'm sporting the logo today. I had the pleasure of helping to paint a room for the Boys and Girls Club. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that because that's actually going to be part of what I say. But I want you guys to say hello to, hey. I got a special guest with me today. We're spending some guy time, so he's in the background. Hopefully, he will produce this show for me. But quickly, I want to talk a little bit about. Sometimes it's just hard to let go. I mentioned that I was painting a room at the Boys and Girls Club. If the room was 8 by 8, I'd be surprised. We walk into the room, it was 4 of us, and we just knew it was going to be very easy for us to paint this wall, to paint this room, and we'd be done in no time. But ironically, the walls were made of brick. They were vertical bricks, and they might have been like this wide. And so as you can imagine, there were little crevices as well. So we ended up, it took us the entire day to paint that wall, to paint that one room. And so in the end, what really hit me was just the fact that, you know, sometimes there are things about our past that are just completely difficult to get to. We've buried them so deep that it's very hard for us to get to them, to clean those things up, to let those things go. So we had these little bitty paintbrushes trying to dig all off in between the bricks just to try to cover up some of those things that had been exposed. You get it? We had to use these little bitty tiny brushes to try to paint over where someone had painted before and it had been kind of worn, kind of gotten dirty, kind of gotten dusty. But in order for the whole room to look clean, to look new, we had to get into the small cracks and into those little pores that the bricks were providing, and that made it very difficult. A lot of times for a lot of us, it's a challenge to let go because sometimes we're getting into some really deep cracks. We're getting into some crevices in our lives. We've got some paint that needs to be painted over. We got some things that need to be scraped off. But the fact is, it's difficult to get in there because we've buried it so deep. So my challenge to you is look at those places where you've buried things so deep in your heart, so deep that you are now bitter. I almost titled this that men are more bitter and sometimes will not let go a lot worse than women. Because I was having a conversation with a friend that talked about how, you know, she's dealing with a situation where her father is just bitter and won't let go of some things. And the fact is, he got his own baggage, and yet he blames everybody else. Men have a tendency to do that. I'm sorry, guys, for putting us on blast, but it's true. A lot of times for men, it's difficult for them to really let go of some stuff because we got so much pride. We got our egos involved. For us, it's all about, you know, we should be perfect. We should be on top. We should be in control of things, and many times we are not. We just aren't. And the fact is, often the very things that eat at us are the very things that our women tend to point out. And I'm gonna leave that one right there because right now is not the time to talk about that. But for a lot of us, those crevices are what ends up being the focal point when you walk into the room. So if you're trying to cover up some of those dark spots, you're trying to change what's on the exterior, you also have to change what's on the interior. You can't cover it up just with a coat of paint. It actually took us 2 or 3 coats of paint. But the real way to remove some of that is to get in, to scrape it out, to get rid of it, so that way, if the paint starts to chip away, that scar, that blemish, that issue that you've been dealing with for many, many years, it's no longer there because you've actually dealt with it. So I pray that you guys will receive this one today. I pray that you guys will think about what are the things that are so deeply buried in your spirit that you just refuse to let it go. Those things that when somebody brings up a difficult conversation, you immediately go there. You're watching TV and the episode reminds you of some pain that was caused to you by someone that you cared about that took advantage of you, that made you no longer trust other people. Find those things, understand what those things are, get help for them. Go to counseling, talk to your pastor or talk to me, and I can help put you in touch with people that you need to. So thank you so much. Always, it's a pleasure for you guys to tune in. I know also I am literally on the day after the most talented musician in the world passed away. And yes, I was up late last night. I'm in Chicago, and people here were talking about staying up late to watch the Blackhawks game. I was watching MTV, watching all the old Prince videos and videos of him in concert, and just thinking about my life from the mid-'80s until yesterday and the impact he's had on my life. I know a lot of people are hurt and sad, but let's celebrate who he was and what he meant to all of us, and especially those songs that really touched us, and that will continue to be, as they say, you know, the soundtrack to our lives, especially those of us in our 40s. But do me a favor, and I always tell people this, you want to pass it along, make sure that you teach your children about Prince and Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and all the other greats that have gone on, Luther Vandross. Make sure that just like our parents did for us by playing Marvin Gaye while they were cleaning up the house, make sure that you let that music live on, because that was truly the best era of music that existed between the 80s and 90s. Okay, not to get too sidetracked, thank you so much for tuning in each and every Friday. Thank you guys for sharing. If you want to go back and watch other videos, please go to either YouTube and look up Cedric Newburn, or go to my website, cedricnewburn.com. Again, that's Cedric with no C's, C-E-D-R-I-K, Newburn.com, and you'll see all the videos under the blogs. And again, thank you so much. Do me one huge favor though. If you like this today, please hit share, post it, tag me, so that way other people will be able to see it as well. Thank you. Have an amazing rest of your Forgiveness Friday, and have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.